And thanks for joining us on Beyond 100 Days. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. You can join the conversation right now on X at TVC News On using the hashtag Beyond 100 Days. We're starting on a rather somber note today, reflecting on the tragic stampedes that occurred over the weekend. The devastating incidents in Ibadan, Oyo State, Okija, Anambra, and Abuja have left us all in shock. Over 60 lives were lost in these tragic events. And President Tinubu has condemned these acts, calling for a thorough investigation. But the question remains, should these tragedies continue to happen in Nigeria? We've seen similar incidents in the past, like the Ilorin Salah stampede in 2013, the Luton stampede in Abuja, Adamawa, and Kogi in 2020. And remember the church food stampede in Rivers State that happened in 2022. So what mechanisms are in place to prevent such occurrences? State governments and private organizations are following the right channels to ensure seamless distribution of palliatives. And those are one of the many questions on the mind of people moving on to the end of the year. To discuss these critical issues, I'm joined by Commissioner for Information in Anambra State, Dr. Law Mefo, and Commissioner for Information and Orientation in Cross River State, Erasmus Ekpang. Gentlemen, compliments of the season to you, and thank you for joining us. Let's begin with Honorable Commissioner for Information in Anambra State, Dr. Mefo. Considering the recent stampede in Anambra that resulted in about 22 deaths, what measures would you say the state government has put in place now to prevent such incidents in the future?
Yeah, thank you for hosting me. The Okija stampede is, for me, a preventable one if some precautionary measures are taken. Yes, Anambra hasn't recorded any stampede in any, should I say, any time that could be recalled, not distant past, not to the best of my knowledge. But we must say that what has happened, with benefit of the hindsight, there are things that if they were really looked at in terms of structures, in terms of strategies, maybe these deaths would have been avoided. Because if you look at it, it's essentially a crowd problem. In other words, the issues border essentially on a crowd control. Absence of strategies to ensure that the crowd was under control, so that the palliatives will be shared to all the beneficiaries, the less privileged that were intended to benefit from it. Let me also point out quickly that Obi Jackson from Okija has been sharing palliatives for years now. And this year's zone went awry. Certain things happen once you have a crowd and you have no plans to really deal with the crowd, make sure they are under full control, especially when food was being shared and everybody was eager to get a share, possibly more. And from all indications, there were no plans on the part of the philanthropists to plan for how the crowd should be put under control. From the readings of the press releases from the police in Anambra, they joined the place after the stampede had occurred. And ordinarily, when the crowd started rising, the police should have been brought in to help in putting things under control. But obviously that wasn't done. And of course, it was a private exercise, which, like I said, he has done over the years. And he obviously didn't also involve the government. Not that he should. I believe that, of course, you know, the crowd control is essentially a statutory responsibility of the Nigeria police. That is not to say that government cannot come into it. And again, with the benefit of hindsight, government will certainly issue a kind of, did I say, guidelines on how such things can be handled moving forward.
Absolutely, Dr. Mefo. Let me bring in your colleague in Cross River, Mr. Ekpang. They say other states are paying rapid attention to what's happening or what has happened in Oyo, in places like Abuja. Speak to us, if you can, what you're doing in the area of crowd control and safety measures. If the state is on red alert, if there are collaborations, for instance, with philanthropists and organizations who provide support to the vulnerable at this time.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to actually send my heartfelt condolence, to those that had lost their life in Abuja, Oyo, and Okija in Anambra State. It's quite a pity. For us in Cross River State, we try to go ahead to look at these issues and then check ways to actually stop possible stampedes or crowd gathering, knowing that the economy for now is tough and for prices of foodstuffs increases by the day, it keeps going up. So we try to get very credible persons to mount committees to either chair the palliative committee and then even with the members and all that. So in Cross River State, my principal, Senator Prince Batten, would always think ahead. We have a secretary to the state government of the state, Professor Antonio Waneno, who chaired this committee for palliatives. And we actually sat down as a committee to digress the people in need, the less privileged, disabled, the clergymen, to even civil servants and all groups. We go through rigorous meetings to see that we're able to align and agree with the numbers of whatever palliatives will go for where. And in each of these groups, we have leaders, we have group leaders that would actually call, where those groups have agreed this is our leader, and actually give them a clearance in an undisclosed place. First of all, for transparency, we actually tell the states the amount of the grains or whatever we have to dispense. That transparency alone calms them down. And then secondly, these leaders would actually come with a clearance, along with the truck where we are ready to take care of the logistics. And then they will actually take those palliatives to wherever they want to share it in their own groups. For instance, if it's a disabled, we know their leader in Cross River State, he or she will be given a clearance, and you come to this location where these grains are, just you, with a truck where we pay for the logistics, and you take these grains to where your group is, and it's simply done, no issues at all. We try to organize ourselves like that in Cross River State, knowing that, to avoid crowding, to avoid stampede, to avoid people rushing for food, knowing how difficult times are at this moment. So that is how well we're able to organize our own. We did it within the state coffers, with the help of the security agencies. But then, for theirs is to secure the areas where these grains or the palliatives are kept. So you come with a clearance. Once you don't have a clearance, you won't even know the venue of where the place is. You are not even supposed to know where it is. So your leader just comes to the clearance. We get a truck for your leader, pay for the logistics, and he takes it to where your group is. And he shared across the state. As I speak with you, almost all palliatives sent to us in the state have been shared totally throughout the states. And gradually it has trickled down to the local government, to the wards and everything. Just very quiet. No stampede, no issues.
Dr. Mefo, let's talk about support for victims' families. Are there any form of compensation from the Anambra State government for families of the victims of the stampede?
Yeah, before I come to that, let me point out quickly that Anambra State as a government has a well-structured processes of sharing palliatives. Even this Christmas, rice will be shared through the same process. We utilize the town union structures. We utilize the political ward system. And through that way, you do not have to bring everybody to a common place. You distribute the palliatives down the line, from the state through local governments to the towns, using the town unions, using the ward structure, using Ndigwe. They have very effective structures in place. And these structures ensure total decentralization of the palliatives and this sharing process. So nobody is allowed to gather anywhere in such large numbers as to occasion something like a stampede, as happened in Okija. What happened in Okija had nothing to do with government. It was essentially a private individual initiative, and he has done this over the years. And let me also point out, he's not the only one. Anambra people are very philanthropic. The way you measure a big man in Anambra is that during occasions such as Christmas, that you are able to take care of the underprivileged. So it's not only Jackson, it's everywhere. And they don't distribute their palliatives through the government. No, they don't. They do that all by themselves. And like I said, moving forward and with benefit of hindsight, there will be some guidelines so that in future, they will follow those guidelines and there will be no collection of people, huge number of people, numbering possibly over 1,000 in a particular place where you cannot rule out a stampede. This will happen.
I hear you, Dr. Mefo. So I was specifically asking about support from government for victims of this incident.
Yeah, support will come, has always come where necessary. The Commissioner for Health has been there with some other government agents. And, if need be, you can be sure that there will be assistance.
Gentlemen, let's take a short break. And when we return, we'll explore what many people consider to be the root cause of these stampedes. Stay with us, everyone. Dr. Lo Mefo is the Commissioner for Information in Anambra State. I also have with me Commissioner for Information and Orientation in Cross River, Erasmo Ekbank. Gentlemen, thank you so much for staying the course on the program. Let's quickly touch on economic crisis and poverty, which many consider to be at the root of what's happening here. Some 63% of Nigerians, they say, live in poverty, and that the fact that state governments even have to distribute these palliatives at times like this, some say is an indictment on the quality of welfare happening year long. They say that the federal government has given more money now through FAC with the removal of full subsidy. And Nigerians are asking what's really happening at the state level. Let me begin with you, Mr. Ekbank. Precisely, what do you think your government is doing to address this economic crisis and providing support to vulnerable citizens beyond just distributing rice during Christmas?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just like the term sounds, palliatives are not very permanent measures to alleviate poverty or take it totally or shows good governance. The government of the day had done a lot to alleviate poverty from the very poor people, even from our riverine areas. Lately, the government has provided a lot of, it's not in the case of actually always giving you rice or giving you what you need to eat, but actually creating measures for you to be able to work and make ends meet out of yourself. Of late, in the riverine areas, the government has provided more than hundreds of boats for fishermen, free of charge to actually use for, their boat fishing activities. Besides that, a lot of grants are sought to be procured and given to, most vulnerable to actually, start up one or two small businesses. POS, of late, we have distributed more than 20,000 POS across the state to actually, leave these people with what they have to do with themselves, to survive, not just waiting for either Easter or Christmas, we come up with something like palliatives, which we know is not a permanent measure. Government for us is actually fixing up almost everything in the state, from the boreholes, the street lights, where we know energy, it's actually being provided all through in the state. It means that everybody could actually tap in there from there, gain employment, and do a lot of other things. So the government of the day is actually trying a lot, even in terms of agriculture. Of late, we procure about 108 tractors for young farmers to actually, give away for young farmers to actually, thrive in their farming activities. We have been able to clear up to 13 hectares of, we have procured about 13 hectares, 13,000 hectares of land for agricultural activities, practice, and all that. And so far, about 2,000 hectares have been cleared and actually allocated for farmers. A lot of many other things. Cross River is actually blessed with aerial, soil agriculture, fertile soils that we actually, in the beginning when we came on board, the government of the day actually took a survey of the state and, saw that the soil was like cocoa that we know right now is very expensive. We saw that cocoa could actually thrive in all the 18 local government of the state. There we have actually produced some of those seedlings, encouraged some farmers to, go into that and all that. So it's not just waiting for Xmas for these palliatives that are just measures that ordinarily, once the government is settled and things are fixed, and everything seems to be differently, palliatives will sit out.
So I know that you both speak for your government, and I understand the job, but I was hoping that we can scratch beyond the surface to identify what the real problems are here. They say the federal allocation has almost doubled since the removal of full subsidy. Although the Bible says the poor you will always have in your midst, there's a problem if the number of poor keeps multiplying, on a yearly basis. And many stakeholders have said, ask the governors what they are doing with these monies. Dr. Mefo, let's talk about long-term solutions to poverty, beyond distribution of palliatives. How do you think that's happening in Anambra?
Thank you for that. Soludo and his solution government, they don't believe in palliatives. And palliatives for us is giving people fish. What Soludo and the government are doing is giving the people hook with which to fish. They are doing, the government is paying attention in deepening the empowerment of the people to be able to take care of themselves. Empowerment here ranges from interventions in agriculture, in what there is an innovation we call one use, two skills. And then you take it up to the digital infrastructure and digital skills with which the youths are being empowered in Anambra State. In the area of agriculture particularly, the government is doing so much, distributing well over 2 million seedlings, special seedlings to farmers, fertilizer, and more. Then you come to the area of the one use, two skills. It's directly trying to empower the youths by giving them skills with which to really take out a living in an honorable and sustainable manner. And the skills being taught by the scheme is well over 40, covering all aspects of human endeavor, agriculture, farming, everywhere you find them. Then you have the digital skills, well over 20,000, 25,000 in the Anambra, particularly youth, have been trained in digital skills, from coding to the basic that will make them employable even outside Nigeria. So where it comes to what the government is doing in Anambra, it's looking into the future, understanding the problem that the nation is facing at the moment. You talked about more money going to states. Well, I don't want to begin to talk about the illusion of money, because if you look at the value of the quantity of money going to states, the quantum may be more, but the actual value of that money going to the states may not be as much as what it used to be. That is what I mean by illusion of money. So the talk that the states are getting more money may not actually be sustained when you check out the values of the money we are getting at the moment. I don't want to go into that. I think that what Soludo is doing is helping prepare the youth in the Anambra for the future. And the fact, I keep talking about the 1U2 skills, it has been copied by the federal government because it is sustainable. It is being used to really empower the youth, not just in terms of giving them money to go into business endeavors and all that. They actually acquire the skills they need before they even access the money. Soludo government, for example, has committed over 2 billion to youth empowerment in terms of giving them what we may call seed money to be able to proceed after acquiring the skills in the various empowerment schemes that the government has undertaken in the last 33 months that it has been in power. So I believe we are doing sufficiently well here in Anambra, and we are not leaving it just at youth empowerment and so on and so forth. There are other areas. If you go to places like health, there are interventions there, like interventions you find in health sector, something like free delivery, free cesarean sections, free antenatal. They are reducing the cost of running families.
I hear you, Dr. Mefo.
I hope you know that we are running a free.
We are running out of time. Election is due in Anambra in a few months. I'm sure that all of these issues will come to the fore, and the electorate will also decide accordingly. But Mr. Ekpang, do you agree with Dr. Mefo that more revenue doesn't really mean more money for state governments? We have just 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think to some extent I agree with what Doctor has said, because there are a lot of many other challenges in the states. Their challenges in other states are totally different from the others. We have a situation where more populations are, set out, a lot of other issues coming into the government to see a lot of things I have to put. Like my state, Cross River State, we are totally trying to rebuild the state in total, trying to bring in investors, trying to clear up a lot of things and all that. So it wouldn't really measure with the amount of money that is promoted coming into the state, and what we expect that as a government, you'll be able to release all this money that comes in for what the news or the media or what people perceive it should be. There are a lot of other things about government you have to actually put this money to ensure that in the future the citizenry will be very comfortable and be able to afford a good livelihood and all that. So it's not that once the money is increased by fact and all that, you expect that everything should just be released to the people just as how people perceive it should be.
Indeed. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your contribution. Nigerians are counting on government officials to do their bit as we count on to the end of the year. There's a lot of optimism about what happens in the new year. We saw the 2025 budget. A lot of optimism from government, looking forward to the inflation rate coming down to as low as 15%. We're hoping and counting on all of those promises, especially from state governments as well. Anambra State Commissioner for Information, Dr. Law Mefo, Commissioner for Information and Orientation in Cross River State, Erasmus Ekpang. Gentlemen, compliments of the season. Thank you for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us.
And that's our show today. You can watch it again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I am Nifemi Oguntoye.